Just excited that you're here with us tonight. This is the combined meeting for December of the School District of Oconee County, and we just welcome each of you and are glad that you chose to attend tonight. As we begin tonight, as we do with all of our meetings, I ask you if you'd like to join us in a moment of silence, please. Amen. Thank you. If you will stand with me, we're going to stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, as we begin our meeting tonight, we have a special recognition. Taylor Long. He's done a very special job for us for a long time. And I'm going to let Michael talk about it for just a minute. And we'd like for you to come forward.
He obviously didn't read the agenda because I didn't come
Right there.
Hey, it was published. You can, so Taylor has really helped not only us, but he's helped the community because what he's done for the last, we were talking about it before the meeting, 3 or 4 years maybe. I think it might have even been longer than that because Mike Brown was the last one who did it regularly for us. But videoing all these meetings that we have, and then he's always so diligent to get them back to our office within a couple of days so that we can post the videos online. It allows people to see what goes on in these meetings without having to drive up here. So Taylor's a great community member, pastor at a local church, and just a good guy, and has been wonderful to the school district to help us for the last few years. So we wanted to recognize him tonight because this is the last night Taylor will be here. If you can hear my voice being projected, these nice little green lights in the ceilings, They're a new microphone system for this room that will allow us to go to a YouTube Live scenario, much like County Council does across the street. And we'll no longer need someone to video the meetings because we've got some high-tech cameras and sound equipment here now that will allow it to be automated a little bit. So we wanted to recognize Taylor and say thank you for all your hard work over the last few years. So Ms. McCormick and I have a... Okay. We were told that you were a coffee drinker, so a small gift for you. And just want to take a picture that Mr. Hamby can tweet out.
Thank y'all so much, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Joe.
We certainly appreciate all the work that you've done. You make us sound good and look good and as much as you can, but thank you.
And another one of the school district's own, so, anyway.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. And this is the approval for the December 13th, 2021 combined board meeting. At this time, I would like to add one thing, and that is a motion to amend the date of the next board meeting, which is published as January 10th. And I would like to amend that date to January 18th.
You need a motion?
I do need a motion.
So moved.
That's a Tuesday, correct?
It is a Tuesday because Monday is a
Monday's the
holiday.
holiday.
And do you want to, at this point, just maybe amend the agenda
To add it.
to add that to the agenda, and then y'all
So
can,
your motion would be, I'm sorry, to amend the agenda, and we'll add it.
Thank you.
Okay.
so we'll put that maybe.
So we
in.
have a motion to amend the agenda. To second?
Second.
All in favor?
So we'll add that to the action items.
So are there any other items to be approved of the agenda? All right. Then with that amendment, the agenda stands approved. All right, so now, if we could, we'll just go ahead and if you would make a motion to change the date of the January board meeting to January 18th, 2022.
So moved.
Okay?
Second.
All right, any discussion? Thank y'all for doing that. All in favor? All right. So that motion is made. Is there anyone for public comment?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. In our packet, we received the minutes of the November 15th, 2021 combined board meeting. Did anyone see any changes, any alterations at all that needed to be made? All right, then the minutes of the November 15th, 2021 combined board meeting stands approved as presented. And at this time, we have Dr. Thorsland's update for us.
Yes, thank you. And I just wanted to give you kind of a quick update. I have, for the last 3 or 4 weeks, been traveling to all the different schools. The teacher forum had suggested that I go to all the schools and just give each teacher and staff member an opportunity to share concerns and maybe for me to answer questions they might have. And it's been a tough fall, and we've had some concerns expressed. So I've visited 14 of 18 of my sites so far. I've got 4 more meetings later this week, and have been getting very good feedback. The meetings, by and large, have been very positive. It's been good for me to hear directly from teachers. I was just going to update you. My plan is I've been taking notes in this notebook, and I've got, notes from just about every meeting. And I'm going to try to synthesize those and certainly highlight the consistent concerns I'm hearing or comments. And I'm going to share that with you guys in January. And I probably will just send it back out to all the teachers so that they can see kind of what I've heard in other buildings. But that's been positive. And I've also started visiting classrooms again. So I've made my way around to almost all the schools to visit classes. I just go in the rooms the principal asks me to go into. And I was going to share you something you could laugh at. I went to a 4K classroom last week, and I had a student do a portrait of me. So, that's the portrait of me. So if you ever wonder if I have long legs, 4-year-olds think I have long legs.
Mike, I have to comment on that.
Okay.
I thought you were drawing something. I thought there was a snowman. And I said, man, he doesn't know how to draw snow.
And then I said,
She said,
I
no,
was an
that's
angel.
Well, that might be more appropriate. I guess that's what they saw.
There was that
An
thing, I
angel.
was an angel.
But anyway, it's been fun to get back out in the schools. It's great to see the schools kind of opening back up, and we certainly intend to keep that, moving that direction in January. But things are, it's a good time of year. People have expressed appreciation to you guys, particularly for the increase in substitute pay. I think that meant a lot to our teachers in addition to the bonus that you passed for them. So want to tell you guys thank you for that. And, like I said, just looking forward to a break for everyone to kind of catch the breath and then look towards the second semester. So things are going fairly well.
And we certainly have received a lot of thanks for that, for both of those, the increase in the pay and also that bonus. I think it was so much appreciated, so.
And I can't remember things very long. Mr. Hamby's reminding me of something you reminded me of just a few minutes ago. But for those of you watching at home, as we move into this new way of broadcasting the meetings, right now you will not be able to see the exhibits when Ms. Bay clicks on them. The folks here in the audience will be able to see it on the TV monitors, and of course you can see it on the monitor in front of you, board members. But those at home, you'll need to actually open another window in your browser, and if you'll go to the school district website, click on the link that says School Board, and then you can get to meeting agendas, and meeting agendas is what you need, and then you can click on the exhibit. So you've got access to it at home. You'll just have to kind of click back and forth from the broadcast to the exhibit if you would like to see those from the comforts of your home. But anyway.
Great. All right, and at this time, Mrs. Moore, our audit report.
That's right. It is that time of year. We finished the audit before Thanksgiving this year. I have to say, I think in the 20 years that I've been here, this is the very first time. So we were very happy about that. And you have at your place a blue folder that has 3 or 4 pages from the report that Mr. Estep is going to talk about. And you also have a thumb drive that has the entire audit report for you to look at when you get home. And we will post the audit report tomorrow on the website as well. But tonight, Mr. Estep is here, Don Estep, and Brian Lear, hard time with his name. And he's gonna let you know the results of the audit.
My pleasure to be here again. We've been doing this for many years now, and it's always an enjoyable experience. Brian does most of the work. I do most of the review work, but he does all the hard labor. And he says Gloria helps him out a pretty good bit. They've always been very helpful to us in finding things. Sometimes we can't get the audit finished because we're waiting on information from other entities or something like that. So we were very pleased that we could get everything finished before the holidays this year, the Thanksgiving holidays. Let's look at the...
It's the next button.
All right. These are just some slides that just illustrate some of the major figures in the audit report. Brian created these just to give you an easy way to look at it. If you look at the audit report, sometimes it can get kind of confusing. This first one is concerning the net position of the entire school district. And what they started doing several years ago is making us lump everything together, all the business type funds, which in this case was the food service fund, all the governmental funds like general funds, special revenue funds. And they started making us lump it all together and come up with one big number for people to look at. And it used to be, this was always, I think some of y'all can remember, was a positive number. But several years ago, a new accounting pronouncement came out and made us start including the school district share of the pension and post-employment benefit liabilities that's run by the state plan. They parcel it out, we get a report. Every governmental entity that participates in the retirement plan and in the post-employment benefit plans, they assign a liability to every one of them. And that's what caused a lot of just about all governmental entities to end up with a negative net position. If you look at fiscal year 21, the net position this year is actually a little better than it was the year before. It changed by $2 million to the good. And a lot of these are because of those entries that are made concerning the pension plan or the other pension employee benefit plans. And the business activities, that's just food service for y'all. Whenever you see that business type activities, that's always food service. And the net change of that was positive this year. This year, the biggest reason why we had a positive change in net position is because we included all these pupil activity funds, all the scholarship funds, all the things that used to be lumped together in fiduciary funds in the prior year, now is included as a special revenue fund, so it gets lumped in with all our other special revenue funds, and it actually affects your net position this year, where in the past it didn't. We always just showed that it was owed to different clubs, different people, you know. If you look at Brian's note here, the 2076, 2,076,888 change in governmental net position included a prior period adjustment of 1,662,550, and that was all those funds, their balances being added into that special revenue fund. And I thought it's a good bit of money, but that explains why we had such a positive net change of such a big amount anyway. And next one. This is just a budgetary comparison for just the general fund. You'll notice on local sources this year, our actual revenues were more than we had budgeted for the local sources and also for the state sources. We just had better tax collections, I believe, didn't we, Lori, for the local and the state. You know, we never really know exactly what we're going to get for the year from them. But as you see, the budget variance was $4.5 million for total revenues. Then if you look at the next page, this is the expense side of that. And if you look at the instruction, we spent a little bit less than what we had budgeted. For support services, we spent more. And so the net of all that was, we spent $515 more than what we had budgeted for expenditures in total. So the note Brian's got at the bottom for the net change in fund balance was, this is just the general fund now, was $1.7 million. This one's just comparing the fiscal year 20 numbers to the fiscal year 21 numbers. You'll see we had an increase in the local source revenue of about $3 million. Increase in state sources by $1.3 million. So total revenues went up about $4.5 million. And then the next slide is just his same thing with the expenditures. And you'll see the total expenditures went up about $956,000. The next slide is giving you an illustration of the effects of that accounting for the pension plan and what it does to, to our set of books, basically. If you look at the net effect figure, that's how much of a liability we're adding to your books that we used to not have to add. So that's a total of $137 million that we used to not have to do. And if he gave you the figure for fiscal year 20, it was 131, so our net change for the prior year was up 5.6 million. And the next slide is the same type thing for the post-employment benefits other than the pension stuff. And that shows you, we had another 123 million in liabilities to your net position just from that GASB 75 pronouncement. Now, I guess the summary is we had a good year financially. A lot of it was, we got a lot of federal monies in from when we did the single audit. We always have to go through a process to pick which federal programs we're going to do specific compliance audit procedures on. And this year it was Title I. And then the other one, what was the official name?
It was the ESSER, the elementary and secondary.
Yeah, some of that money they gave us for the COVID money. And so that's what we ended up having. We got so much of that, and we ended up having to test that and Title I. We didn't have any compliance findings. Everything was done in accordance with the different compliance procedures that they stipulate we have to go look at. So we didn't have any problem with that. On your audit report, we gave you what is considered to be an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get. It means we didn't have to modify it because you weren't doing something in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So you got a good audit opinion. And of course, we also give you an opinion letter on the internal control system for federal programs, and also for the compliance procedures that I was just talking about. All those were clean opinions, also unmodified opinions. So basically, in summary, this year's been a pretty good year financially, believe it or not, and it was very good from a compliance standpoint as far as the things that we tested. I don't think there's any more. Any questions that you would like to ask?
One little one. Do you still feel that we're okay with that deficit that the state keeps showing against the districts?
It's my understanding that the bonding companies understand the accounting that's going on and that they don't hold that against us.
But they've got it down in print that we owe that.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, the theory is, if everybody went belly up, we would have to pay that amount of money. The state would have to go broke, basically. So, it's just, I don't understand why they made the change, because we make our contributions based on what the state asks us to do. We've done everything we're supposed to do, and then they still make it look like we owe, $100 million.
Just a little worrisome.
Yeah. Well, the retirement system as a whole has been a little worrisome, and that's why they kept up in the rates and trying to collect more money from y'all as you work, just to help pay for these benefits in the future.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Well, Mr. Easton, thank you so much for this, and thank you for coming up and doing it.
We're gonna leave it. I know it's gonna be fine here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. I know.
Any kind of deficit you would anywhere.
Except that kind of money. Yeah.
When you're dealing with the state and the federal.
All right, Mrs. Moore, our November financial report.
let you, if you have any questions, ask. I'll be happy to answer.
Lori, I was just curious, there's a lot of pretty large transactions for the Seneca High School HVAC project. Does that not need to be shown on the current capital expenditure page? Or is that,
It is not on there, and the reason for that is it's not a part of our 8%
Okay,
capital
okay.
projects. It's
I was-
actually part of the
that's
ESSER
the-
funding.
that's what I was
But
curious about.
We can put it there if you'd like for us to.
I was just, as we move forward, especially with the new Seneca Middle School project as well, that was another one that was on here, just, paying, what was it? Trail, those amounts for the Seneca Middle construction and the pump station. I was just curious as to why some of those figures weren't on there, but thank you for the clarification. That was it.
Okay. Looking for the pump station, I think it is on there. Orchard Park, yeah, that's the pump station.
Pump station, okay.
Yes. And Seneca Middle, we haven't added to the list yet, but we will.
Okay.
I did want to report that we did, as you said, we did pay the bonuses last week, and the cost of that was $521,000. And that was not in our budget. We didn't have that budgeted for this current year, but we do have funds in our fund balance so that we can cover that. Just wanted to say that so that folks would know where that money is coming from.
And I'm not sure everyone in the audience would have picked up on the fact, but the bottom line is, from that audit report, our fund balance grew by $1.7 million last year, so.
And that's pretty significant considering that we budgeted for a $2.4 million deficit. So
Right. So it was a good year because we collected more than anticipated, so that will more than cover the cost of that bonus that you approved last month, so that was a good thing.
What kind of activity, I noticed you brought up, Seneca High School, the check to trail, for this new Seneca Middle School project. What, are they just doing some testing?
All the civil work is being done now, so, and we've been, honestly, they haven't been getting paid. We've been meeting for 2 years in prep and planning, so, but yeah, they have begun that, and they're paying Fowler is the sub who's doing that, so they're having to pay those bills, so that's where that's coming from.
If you've not driven by there, there's a lot of dirt's been moved on that site, so they've started the site work.
Anybody else have any questions about the financials? Ms. Simmons, our local board-approved courses, please.
Yes, ma'am. We're already starting to plan for the upcoming school year. So I wanted to go over our local board-approved courses that we would potentially like to offer for the 22-23 school year. Any of the courses that are highlighted in yellow are new local board-approved courses that we'll present tonight. Stephanie Visage has already created those course numbers, so I'll add those to your table so you can see those for the upcoming January meeting. And then the ones that are not highlighted are courses that are local board approved that we've been offering, that you all have already approved in the past. So I did want to make one addition. The Marketing Senior Seminar class at Hamilton Career and Technology that we approved last year will be on the docket for next year, so we'll go ahead and add that one as one that had been approved last year. And then Walhalla High School is not going to be offering outdoor survival skills, so we'll be taking that one off the list. So just wanted to give you that update. I'm going to start with the Math Strategies class. This is a class that Seneca High School would like to offer for the upcoming school year. It is a class that can be suitable for 9th through 12th graders. It is a semester-long class. I am going to give a little bit of background as to how they want to use this course. It's really intended for incoming freshmen that need some reinforcement with their math skills when necessary to be successful in Algebra 1. So they would take the Math Strategies course for first semester and then take Algebra 1 second semester. But we could get students that may be going from the credential track to the diploma track that could be a 10th through 12th grader that may also need that Math Strategies course in connection with Algebra 1 or even with Geometry, Algebra 2, Prop and Stat, depending on the student. So the Math Strategies course would always be first semester, math course the second semester. And then also if we have any students that fail Algebra 1, they may need the Math Strategies course prior to taking Algebra 1 as well. So that's how they would like to use that course. Mr. Roberson at this time will be the teacher for that class. I did just want to point out a few things as far as just the description there at the top on the next page. It's going to have the categories of number and quantity, algebra functions, and stats and probability. Just making sure that our students are getting that more formalized and extended mathematics principles, things that they've learned from middle school, and what they need to take with them in those courses. It lists a lot of those other critical necessities there. Also down in the needs assessment, it talks about math strategies being aligned with needs that are within the South Carolina mathematics standards, and some of those deficiencies that they've recognized in students that they will be making sure that they are including in the instruction. And then I also like that they have quite a variety of teaching methodologies that they'll be using within the course. Concrete, representational, abstract, with using a lot of manipulatives and things of that nature. Encouraging the discourse between students to kind of sharpen their higher order thinking skills and their reasoning skills. Desmos calculator, which is something that our students use during state testing, which is another important tool that our students learn how to use that will assist them on those assessments. The explore before explain strategy, which really brings in real life situations to problem solving. And then also the flipped classroom, which is a good piece of a blended learning environment where they may be able to review instructional information first prior to learning about it in class. So it's kind of like a front-loading methodology there. Then you also have your problem-based learning and project-based learning, cooperative learning, and then competency-based learning built in there as well. The remainder of the application just, they put a lot of time into the scope and sequence and the syllabus explaining that for this course that you can take a look at as well. And they also have created the chart with how the standards are linked into the course as well. Any questions on math strategies?
I just have a quick question, not necessarily about anything with the class in itself, but do we happen to know what the need of this will be and if it has anything to do with learning loss due to COVID?
In talking with Mr. Hudson, Mr. Leard, and Ms. Powell at Seneca High School, they are, before we had a sequence of algebra classes that they're trying to kind of get away from those courses and using this strategies method instead. I think with the 10th, 11th, and 12th grades, I think they're going to really use that on just specific occasions for students. I think they want this just as an option for select students that may need that course of action. So they did not mention that specifically.
This is essentially kind of a remedial course. It will not count as a math credit
Right.
towards graduation.
All right, the next two I'm going to kind of do in tandem. This again is Seneca High School, the teaching the history and literature of the New Testament era and the teaching the history and literature of the Old Testament era. A lot of the information on both of these applications is similar. When you see the differences are when you get into the units of instruction, because we have New Testament and Old Testament. So I'm going to go through some of the information here. And again, the information I'm starting with is similar between both courses. All right, so this is a semester-long class for 9th through 12th grade students. Mr. Holliday is the teacher who is interested in teaching both of these courses. When we're looking at the description of the proposed course, it's talking about that it really is an elective course concerning the history and the literature of the Old Testament era and concerning the history and literature of the New Testament era. You can see down in the needs assessment that this is a streamlined, kind of developed through a course that was already pre-designed by the State Department of South Carolina. They had a template there. Some of the data that they're looking at are just course context and underserved demographics, the students' outcomes and performances on potential assessments, and their interests and engagement on the topic. And then also students' opportunities to enroll and participate in just a variety of courses that are historical, have literary and geographical curricular areas, and just a need for equity of access. Down towards the bottom there for both of these courses, the New and Old Testament, students will give the opportunity to sign up for the course with their counselors through the IGP process. And all students are welcome to take it, but they will not be assigned without having those specific conversations prior to registering them for the course. The methodologies for teaching are the same for both the New and Old Testament. A lot of the same things that we saw with the Math Strategies course, the flipped classroom, project-based learning and problem-based learning, that cooperative learning, and competency-based learning. And then they also have the course syllabus. The course description is the same for both courses, as well as the objectives. And using the literature, identifying and explaining major problems and issues, and the significant contributions from each of the books of the Bible, quizzes, synthetic charting, and then of course class participation. And then when you get down into the outline of the contents, A through N are exactly the same in both classes, but then when you start getting into Unit 2, 3, 4, and so on, is where you'll see the differences in the units between each of the courses. And so they also have social studies standards alignment as well included for both of those courses too. Any questions on the teaching the history and literature of the New Testament era or the Old Testament era?
Ms. Simmons, I was wondering about the textbooks that will be utilized for these classes.
Okay, because it is an elective course, we don't have like state adopted textbooks that would be used for those particular classes. So it would probably just be a compilation of resources that they can pull from and do research with to teach the content of the class. All right, any other questions? Okay, and I'm gonna do the same thing with team sports 4 and 5. A lot of similarities in these classes. We already have team sports 1 through 3 on our local board approved list. So 4 and 5 are just building on top of skills that students have learned in 1 through 3. This is a PE area class, semester long, West Oak High Schools. Glenn Pageant is the teacher who would like to carry out these courses. If you look down at the description, They talk about how this course is designed to increase the rigor and the workload for students who have taken those previous courses. They're challenged to work on more complex skills, movements in the weight room, increasing their flexibility through activities such as resistance band stretching, and just really increasing their overall physical conditioning through speed and agility movements. And they're also increasing their knowledge of in-game strategies specific to specific team sports like baseball, basketball, football, softball, volleyball. And then they use their individual skills and talents to best help their teammates succeed as well. So in Team Sports 5, they'll just continue to build on those same skills through that course as well. And then also down in the needs assessment, it also talks about advanced instruction in areas like offensive and defensive team strategies, individual position, specific techniques, speed and strength training, nutrition, and fitness program training development as well. The course syllabus, scope and sequence, the teaching methodologies are the same for both courses. And then the standards are also the same for both courses as well. They'll just be building upon those particular standards with the students as they move through Team Sports 4 and 5.
All right, these are presented tonight as discussion items, so just, if you have any questions, we'll have an opportunity at the next meeting also to, once you look more closely over the material, if you have any questions on that. And then we have honors approved courses.
Yes, ma'am. We have 2 honors courses that I'm going to present. The first one is honors probability and statistics. Brittany Tebow at Seneca High School and Michelle Matthews at West Oak High School, along with Elizabeth Crane, created this honors framework application for this course. It is recommended for grades 11 and 12. The prerequisite is students have to have passed Algebra 2. The class itself, just as rigorous understanding of probability and statistics. They do a lot of experimentation and investigation, probability theory, random variables, estimates and sample sizes, testing of the hypothesis. They're going to learn how to collect and organize, analyze, and perform statistical inference on real-world data. And it's really helped students to develop that strong problem-solving skills, and it's highly recommended for students that might be interested in taking AP statistics in the future as well. The rationale behind wanting to offer this course is that our state has standards for algebra, geometry, prob and stat, pre-cal, and calculus. And we currently offer honors levels in algebra, geometry, pre-cal, and calculus. So this just gives our students an opportunity to participate in the honors version of the college prep, probability and statistics as well. And then also AP Calculus students are required to take honors calculus before they can take AP Calculus. So they feel that's the same track that students should take prior to taking AP Statistics. And it just provide another honors level math for students who don't want to go the AP route as well. Okay? The standards are listed in this course's scope and sequence, which is several pages long. They've done a very good job laying all of that out. And then the methods, materials, and assessment section has quite a bit of information, resources, tools that they can use in each unit. They have included that information there. Okay. Any questions on honors, probability, and statistics? All right, and then our second honors course is Honors Earth Science, which this honors framework application was created by Elizabeth Crane, our math and science specialist. She has taken a lot of time and effort into this application. The recommended course grade levels are 11th and 12th grade. Prerequisites are honors biology and honors chemistry. This is a rigorous lab course focusing on the study of space, geologic and astrophysical forces that shape our world. They have a lot of experimentation and investigation. The students can explore the Earth's cycles, including the geosphere, hydrosphere, and the atmosphere. They'll learn more about that scientific inquiry, geologic time, space exploration, the solar system, and the universe. And they'll use their interactive experiences, those higher order thinking skills, collaborative projects, and real-world application through their labs and also through their variety of assessments that they'll participate in. The rationale for this course is very similar to the one that I just described for honors probability and statistics, just having that we have college prep or science, giving those students the opportunity to take the honors level courses as well. And also, just like we do with the other 3 lab science courses, we have honors levels. So this is another rationality there. We have a very detailed scope and sequence with the standards included within that, as well as the same setup with the methods, materials, and assessments that you saw in the honors probability and statistics application.
Any questions on this one? Thank you very much. We'll have to look at them again next month.
All right.
And at this time, we have the student behavioral health update. And this is a great presentation. I can't wait till y'all come and get it. I was looking at it last night, but a lot of information, so come show us what we have.
All right, I'm going to start us off. I just want to say that our committee members who are here are really excited about being able to present to you tonight and just give you some updates about what we've been doing as far as with our Student Behavioral Health Committee. I'm just going to introduce our committee. We have some of them here with us tonight, but all of them play a very important and active role in our committee. And their contributions are very important with the work that we've been doing for the last few years. So Bridget Briley, she is here with us tonight. She is our lead school psychologist on our team. Carrie Carter is also here. She's our lead school counselor from Seneca High School. Stacy Frick is our mental health counselor representative. She's home-based at Oconee Academy. Anna Gibson is our Assistant Director of Special Ed who's here with us. Joseph Powell is our school counselor representative for the middle school level. He's at Walhalla Middle. Alika Queen is our district social worker, and she is here with us tonight. Carissa Sanders is our school counselor at the elementary level from James and Brown. And then myself and Carrie Zimmerman is our school community liaison, and she's with us as well. So in addition to all our great committee members, we've been also working really hard to really get solidified and have some community members that work with our committee as well. And our Hike for Hope is a great example of how we're bringing community members into the work that we're doing. Our Hike for Hope is focused on suicide awareness, and we've been working closely for the last few years with Hal Dunlap through Making My Mark, and Lisa Martin, who is also one of our employees, but she works really a lot with lots of different organizations related to suicide awareness. And then Christy Hubbard has her Choose Life organization that she has worked really collaboratively with us as well. Then we just have various community agencies who have set up tables at our event, who have provided us with resources and donations, and we're very thankful to their help and support as well. We're going to start off by looking at the profile of the South Carolina graduate. This is very important as we talk about social emotional learning with our students in our district. But as you can see, world-class knowledge is only one piece of the profile that we talk about, and that's where We have all of our academics, our standards for ELA, math, and our college and career readiness, as well as our world languages, science, technology, engineering, and math, our STEM areas, and the arts and social studies. So as you can see from this visual, as a public school system, we're not only responsible for just academics. We're also responsible for growing our students in those world-class skills where they can build that creativity, being really innovative, working on their critical thinking and problem solving, as well as really making them collaborate within a team and learn how to work within a team. Their communication skills, how they're processing and presenting information through media and technology, and then just really knowing how to learn. I know that sounds funny, but we teach students how to learn, and they need to understand and know why they're learning and how they learn best. And then really our SEL component falls in those life and career characteristics. You see words like perseverance. We talk about that a lot with students. When they struggle socially and emotionally, sometimes that perseverance is a big challenge for them. Our interpersonal skills, developing those within our students, that self-direction, integrity, work ethic, and then overall just their global perspective. So I hope you see throughout our presentation how important all these pieces fit into developing the whole child, getting to where we want our students to be when they graduate.
So as you can see from the profile of the South Carolina graduate, it is more than just about academics. If you take a look here at these national statistics, they target depression, anxiety, and behavior disorders. And you can see here that they impact children from ages 3 to 17 years old, with anxiety and depression increasing with age.
To the side button.
Got it. This particular data set comes from the Children's Trust of South Carolina. So in addition to the national data, the Children's Trust of South Carolina reports that South Carolina ranks 41st in child well-being, with 1 being the best. That ranking there takes into account economic well-being. It considers education, it considers health, and it also considers a family community component. Breaking that down further, looking at Oconee County, Oconee County is ranked 11 out of 46 counties. York is 1, Pickens is 2, Greenville is 4, and Anderson ranked 10. And if you take a look at those areas, the economic well-being, those are also ranked based on how we fall within the counties within our state, with economic well-being being 4. And again, that looks at things like poverty level, working families. Education, we ranked 6th. And that looks at things like kids in school, not in school, how many kids failed grades 1 through 3. We ranked 21st in health. And what was really eye-opening on this was the 95, where we worsened in teen and children's death. And then family and community, we ranked 18th. And this looks at things like single families, high school diploma within a family, teen births, and so forth. We also take a look at what does this all mean regarding treatment of children. This particular data set looks at children's maltreatment, which looks at abuse and neglect. There's 655 children out in our county that had some form of abuse and neglect. That's about 4% of kids ages 0 to 18. So why is this important? And if you look in any of their data sets, you'll see they really talk about that when children are well, their needs are being met, they're more likely to thrive and meet educational milestones.
no, I'm just.
So adverse childhood experiences is ACEs. ACEs are traumatic events that occur in a child's life. Examples are abuse, neglect, household dysfunction, and hopelessness. There's a relationship between traumatic experiences as a child and negative health and well-being outcomes as an adult. I'm missing something. Thank you. All right, the ACEs study. The ACE study confirms with scientific evidence that adversity early in life increases physical, mental, and behavioral problems later in life. The ACE study is the largest study of its kind, with over 17,000 participants. It was developed and co-sponsored by Kaiser Permanente in San Diego, California, and the Centers for Disease Control and the CDC in Atlanta, Georgia, in the early 90s. Dr. Vincent Folletti and Dr. Rob Anda are the co-principal investigators of the ACE study. And this information is on the CDC website. The ACE study requires an ACEs master trainer to deliver and communicate the data that has been collected from the study to the public. We are proud to be one of the first school districts in South Carolina to have over 30 ACEs master trainers trained to assist in delivering this content in our beginning stage of becoming a trauma-informed school. To date, almost the entire school district of Oconee County faculty and staff have been through the ACEs training, including most of our school resource officers. On this slide, this also shows how ACEs, I know I have to get a little closer, with ACEs affect the health and social outcomes. This is Oconee County, and this is also found on the Children's Trust website. How it affects the higher the ACEs, the higher the risk behaviors, mental health, chronic disease, and healthcare access and the correlation.
All right, so that kind of brings us to what we do as school social workers. So we are trained professionals to provide that direct and indirect service to students and families to ensure that they're receiving their social, emotional, and academic goals. And so one of the things that we do is we serve as liaison between the school, home, and community providers to look at what are those barriers that our children and our families are facing. What are the interventions that we can put into place, whether that's direct or indirect, and try to meet the needs possible there. And what we did as far as services go last year we served over 294 families, students and families. If you just look at the data from November 10th to November 10th this year, we have increased. We're projected probably, if numbers stay consistent, to serve between 350 to 400 families this year. 23% last year were for emotional and behavioral support. That could be counseling referrals. That could be follow-up with pediatricians on psychiatry referrals. That could be re-entry for some of our students that are coming in from psychiatric residential treatment facilities. It's 40% were for basic needs. That's financial support, getting our families connected with our community organizations that's going to help them meet their financial goals, whether that's for rental assistance, whether that's for water, anything that comes with the utility, parenting education, primary care physicians. 37% was for other services such as attendance, faculty, staff training, parent-school communication, and you can kind of see those numbers have significantly increased this year too, and so we expect that to continue. And so as we look at the overall needs as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we know that to be able to reach self-actualization, to be the best person that we can possibly be, we have to meet all the lower tiers first. So we've got to meet those physiological needs. What are those basic necessities? Water, food, shelter. How can we reach that? Then we've got to promote safety. That's physical and felt safety. So we want to make sure that we reach that. Then we can reach love and belonging and acceptance. And then once again, hopefully our self-esteem increases at that point too. So in order to meet all of those, it's important to meet the emotional, social, as we're trying to strive for that academic goals as well. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to do a quick, very simplified version of learning and how it impacts the brain. Hopefully it's simple enough that we can understand the parts, but I give enough detail to understand why this impacts learning so much. So I'm going to use something called the hand model of the brain. This comes from Dr. Dan Siegel, somebody who knows much more about the brain than I do, but I really, really love the way that he describes what's going on in our brain. So if you would enlighten me, if you'll put your hand up, and this is how he teaches us to understand what's going on in our brains. And so the first part to develop is this part down here, and this is the survival brain. It's the very first part to develop, and it controls everything that we don't have to think about, like our heart beating, the blood flow, blinking our eyes, breathing. We don't have to tell ourselves to do that. That part of the brain handles that for us. The next part is the limbic system. If you tuck your thumb in, this is where my favorite part of the brain is, the amygdala. And that's the part that I'm going to talk most about today. It's our brain's guard dog. It reacts very, very quickly at any hint of danger or any hint of a threat. And this is the part of the brain that controls fight, flight, and freeze. Those are the 3 regulation strategies that a lot of us are familiar with. Every single person is born with those regulation strategies. Lots of animals are born with that as well. They have this part of the brain, okay? But what separates us from the animals that share that is this part. If you tuck your fingers over and cover up the limbic system, this is our frontal lobe, okay? This is where all of our executive functioning takes place with organization, planning, self-regulation. That's a huge one. It's that part of the brain. Everything we learn is housed in that frontal lobe part. So when we talk about the core academics, math and science and history, all of that is in the frontal lobe right behind our eyes. But it's also where we keep things like a spouse's middle name, your social security number, your bank PIN. All of that is stored in that part of the brain. And when our lid is on, we have access to everything that we've ever learned. We've got it. We can recall it. We can come up with it. When our lid's on, we can tell you the steps of a long division problem. We have access to that knowledge. But this is where it gets tricky. When there is a threat, whether it's actual or perceived, the brain reacts to the stress the same way it did many years ago for survival. The lids flip. Nothing actually moves, but we lose connection to that front part of our brain. And when I'm describing this to kids, I'll say we've lost Wi-Fi because we understand that comparison. We can't make a connection to that part of our brain. And so the expression, we lose our minds, comes from when we feel threatened, we flip our lids. And at that point, all we have access to is fight, flight, or freeze. So when we feel threatened, the first step is our smart brain is deactivated. Higher order thinking processes are deactivated. The brain is ready to act quickly. This part down here, our system speeds up the heart rate, strengthens muscles, our alertness is increased, survival brain is sent into overdrive. These are some more physical symptoms that are listed. And stress hormones are released, sometimes remaining in our system up to 4 hours. This is why it's important. When we experience a threat, whether it's real or perceived, it becomes extremely difficult to make rational decisions. It's difficult to concentrate, listen, recall information. And so my key point of what I want to say is it doesn't matter how incredible the instruction is. You can have the finest curriculum out there. It is impossible to teach a flipped lid. So these are some real world examples that I came up with. If you're driving home from work, possibly you've got your loved ones in the back of the car, and someone crosses over the center line and you have to react quickly. At that moment, it doesn't matter if you can tell what led up to the Revolutionary War. All of that information goes away. Your only thing is you need to get out of the way. A perceived threat might be if you have watched a scary movie. Maybe it doesn't affect you, but if I watch a really creepy, scary movie, possibly with a serial killer, all of a sudden, every creepy noise outside, you think that there's going to be a threat, and you feel differently, and you notice physical symptoms when your lid is flipped. Okay? My favorite metaphor for the amygdala is it's like your smoke detector. It is there with one purpose, to save your life, much like our amygdala is. But the problem is a smoke detector cannot tell the difference between your house being on fire, run for safety, or someone has burnt toast, or the chicken is overdone. You know, it's going to react the exact same way, and that's very similar to our amygdalas. Whether it's a real threat, whether it's perceived, it is going to respond the exact same way. So ideally, when we look at our students in Oconee County, across the world, ideally caregivers are co-regulating with babies and children, and they are helping them to strengthen the ability to turn off that smoke detector, reattach their lid when they feel threatened, okay? It creates neural pathways that are available when the parent isn't there. So when they go to school, hopefully someone has helped them in those times of distress to know how to handle stressful situations. But children who haven't had someone to help them calm down in times of distress or hard emotion, they're much more likely to show up in classrooms ready for fight, flight, or freeze. If you go back to some of the numbers that they shared earlier, just in Oconee County with 600 confirmed incidents where students are abused or neglected, you could see how this might show up in a classroom. So trauma, adverse childhood experiences, they can cause that smoke detector or amygdala to be very twitchy. And it sets off an alarm even when it's not supposed to, misinterpreting if a situation is dangerous and safe. In my time as a teacher, it is mind-blowing to me that in 4th grade and up, even lining up becomes a concern because a child might bump into someone and already someone's ready to fight. They don't perceive that as, I've just bumped into a classmate. They perceive it as a threat. That's a minor example, but if you look up here, I have some images of some things that may, as you can imagine, not cause a recipe for academic success. If they're going home to physical violence, or if they are concerned how a parent is going to act after having too much alcohol, is DSS going to be showing up on our door? It could be a perceived threat, like being very nervous speaking in front of the class, someone laughing at them, academic work being really difficult for them. One thing I have learned, and it's been very clear to me, is just one emotionally dysregulated child in a classroom can absolutely change the learning environment. And I feel very passionately it is not enough just to tell a child to calm down. Never in the history of telling someone to calm down does that ever work. But it is something that we have to show them and walk them through that process. So that brings us to the next part.
All right, so I just want to reiterate that we've talked a lot about trauma, but any one of us can experience trauma. We've seen that through the pandemic. We've had loved ones pass away from COVID. We had a tornado hit our community, and so those things create trauma, and it doesn't matter how much money you make, where you work, where you live. And so it's important that we're looking at social emotional learning for all students. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about, well, what is social emotional learning? Commonly referred to as SEL. So the State Department has a 2-part definition for us that I want to take a look at. The first part is that social emotional learning is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, skills necessary to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. We're going to look at these further and see it conceptualized later. The second part of the definition is that social emotional learning provides the skills our students need for success in life and in work. And Lisa talked about the profile of the South Carolina graduate, and this is exactly what this is addressing here. So there's been some research studies, and we want to think, well, so what are the effects of social emotional learning instruction? So there was a major landmark meta-analysis conducted in 2011, and it looked across 213 studies involving more than 270,000 children, kindergarten through 12th grade. And this study found that social emotional learning interventions that address the 5 core competencies, we're going to look at those in the next slide, increased students' academic performance by 11 percentile points compared to students who did not participate. Students participating in SEL programs showed improved classroom behavior and increased ability to manage stress and depression and better attitudes about themselves, others, and school. Additional meta-analysis echoed these findings. Consistency across independent research teams offered strong support that well-implemented social emotional learning programs are beneficial. So, what are some of these competencies? The Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, commonly referred to as CASEL, is the nation's leading organization advancing the development of academic, social, and emotional competencies for all students.
So there are 5 broad interrelated areas of competencies. The first is self-awareness, and this is understanding one's own emotions, thoughts, and values. So examples of this would be recognizing one's own strengths and weaknesses. The second is self-management. That's managing one's own emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. And some examples of this would be setting goals, reaching those goals, taking a break when you may need a break. The third is social awareness, and this is understanding the perspectives of and empathizing with others. So this is that perspective learning and thinking about others' perspectives and showing respect for others. The fourth one is relationship skills, and this is establishing and maintaining healthy, supportive relationships. So this is communicating well with others and working together as a team, which is very important in schools and in life. And then the last one is responsible decision making, and this is making caring and constructive choices about personal behavior. And so some examples of this would be identifying problems and being able to analyze and find solutions for those problems.
All right, so to kind of finish, I know we've talked some about MTSS before, which is our multi-tiered system of support. And this is really key in what we've been implementing for SEL. There is a portion of MTSS which requires us to do universal screeners. These screeners help us identify potential struggles with social emotional learning, behavior, and also academics. So we have implemented into our system, we have 3 SEL screeners that we do universally in our schools, and then we are also using 1 academic screener at our elementary level and also with our special ed students in middle school and high school. But the My Sabers is a self-reporting SEL screener that our students in grades 2 through 5 actually use. They fill it out on their own via technology, and they're able to answer the questions that are asked of them. Our Sabers is K and 1. The teacher actually completes that on the student for their social emotional learning. And then we use the BEST, which is self-reported by the students at the middle and high school level. That's able to target specific areas that we're seeing our students struggling with. We have purchased through Title IV funding resources for our counselors, and a lot of those big areas we're seeing concerns with anxiety, depression are 2 of our top areas, and so we've been working on providing our schools with those resources to use with small groups of students, individuals, and then our Fast Bridge. We did all of our students at the beginning of the year in reading. Some of our schools are screening in math. And right now we're doing our screen for the winter with our at-risk students and hoping that things that we're doing with our Tier 1 instruction and within our interventions are really making a difference for our students. So this is where we're meeting our universal screener requirements at this time. And then felt really it'd be important to highlight the Choose Love movement. If you attended our Hike for Hope, our keynote speaker was Scarlett Lewis, who's the founder of the Choose Love movement. She talked a lot about courage and gratitude and compassion and action, forgiveness, that those are all the formulas for choosing love. And a lot of her program goes a lot with what we've already talked about earlier. It aligns to character education, which a lot of our parents know what character education is, positive psychology, emotional intelligences, neuroscience, and mindfulness. We talk a lot about growth mindset with our students and our teachers, so it all really works together nicely. Anna was just talking about those 5 core competencies with CASTLE. That research is in her program as well. Also, the characters.org, just those model standards for character and social emotional development. And it not only benefits this program for our students, but also for our staff. It is completely free.
A lot of our counselors are starting to look into that and including some of those lessons in their Tier 1 full group lessons, especially at the elementary level. But there's a whole parent page on ways that parents can use this program at home. And it's really great just for the community in general. So you can Google Choose Love Movement and get all of the resources and information there. So we're going to close again with our profile of the high school, South Carolina graduate. And I hope that you can see how those three pieces kind of come together, that we have a big job to do, we always have. But just like our team over here was explaining, that if we've got students that are having a lot of those social, emotional, behavioral challenges, to get that world-class knowledge, we need to have a lot of those other characteristics under control, and we can help and do that within our classrooms, within our school buildings, and we're doing a lot to train our faculty and staff and making them a lot more confident on being able to work with those situations, because it is different, it's very stressful, and you have to make sure that you're using the right techniques to be successful with that. And then our last slide here, you can see at the very bottom, like the ground, the grass, we have our MTSS, which we are targeting for all students, whether they're high performing, low performing, don't have SEL challenges, do. And then our social emotional middle mountain falls under our large mountain of culture. The culture of our schools and our buildings, that social emotional piece is extremely important on how we're working through those types of challenges with our students. And you can also see that growth mindset is there as well, kind of goes together most definitely. And then, so the last thing that I just wanted to highlight is, I know after our Hike for Hope, when the term SEL or social emotional learning was being talked about, it was being related to CRT, and as you can see from our presentation, it has nothing to do with CRT. We're talking about needs for all of our students and how we can best meet those needs on the academic front, on the social emotional learning front, on the behavioral front, because all of those things are very important. And it really goes along with our mission as a school district, that we're partnering with our families. And through our social emotional learning, what we're doing academically, we're communicating with parents about what's going on in our classrooms and in our schools, because we want to work together to develop those responsible and productive citizens who are lifelong learners.
If I could add one thing, I just think what Carissa said, if children have moms and dads at home who help them learn these skills early, then we don't have to do it. Unfortunately, that's not happening in today's society all the time. Some of our students come to schools without having learned those skills at home. So we have to step in this space. I promise you, we'd all love to be able to back out of this space. But to learn, kids have to have some of these tools. So it's where we are today.
And coming from the workplace, I mean, it's so important for them to learn while they're in school, if they don't have that instruction at home. Because if not, it just carries over and you see it as adults, and it's another generation. So I know your work is so important, and I'm sorry if I interrupted anyone. If anybody has any comments, this was, as I said, when I looked at it last night, this is just an amazing amount of work and just instruction for us to see what you do, and it's great. Thank you so very much, and thank y'all for being here with us tonight.
They're a wonderful group, and our other members who aren't here are too, so I appreciate them a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. And now you're still on.
Yes.
Makes the show tonight.
It is.
Okay, we have 2 policies that you all had already approved, and then Ms. Bass sent them off, and we got some feedback that we needed to make just a couple minor additions or changes. So on the graduation requirements policy, If you go down to the first paragraph after the table, they asked for us to add in the Emancipation Proclamation and remove the "and American institutions and ideals." That was something that was just in the policy that I guess wasn't there before, and they asked for us to add that in. So we did that. And then on the grading assessment systems, it is on page 5 in that first paragraph. We have the last sentence, the receiving school, we had may use the South Carolina Honors Framework criteria to evaluate such evidence and will make the final decision on whether to award the honors weighting. They asked us to change that to must. That is not an option. May sounds like it could be an option. Must means it will be used in reviewing.
So we felt like, since you just did the second reading on these last month, that we would bring these updates, and if you approve them, we think we can go ahead and make the changes in the policy manual and have these in place.
All right, I think we can do both of these at the same time. So if I could have a motion to approve policy IKF-R, graduation requirements, and policy IKA-R, grading assessment system.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve policy IKF-R, graduation requirements, and policy IKA-R, grading assessment system.
Second.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All right, these motion carries, so these policies has been approved. And that is the end of our regular meeting, and at this time, we will go into executive session for personnel items, employment recommendations, and changes if there are no objections.